I do have to say that I'm finding it more and more important to keep talking about these different types of characters and how I would like to portray them in my own story. Since, as I've mentioned, I've never really put my thoughts and ideas into words and organized them at least in a somewhat regular manner, and these introductions that in the past few cases actually took the larger portion of the video are enabling me to do just that, to actually realize the different aspects some characters have in different types of settings, in different stories that I've been reading ever since I was a small child. And now, when I'm genuinely trying my very best to put that into words that would somehow turn into a story that I would like and that would allow me to have an enjoyable time, I am in sore need of this type of brainstorming that I can also replay anytime I want. I do feel a decent enough improvement in terms of how I express myself during these compared to the very first videos that I've done months ago, and absolutely do feel the need to continue doing so. And even though I've already spent quite a lot of time on the antagonists, I still do have quite a few things that I would like to mention. For example, that I think that I should never introduce a villain or an antagonist against whom the protagonist is completely unable to put up a fight to resist in any way. That would just go completely against what I believe those type of characters should achieve in a story, and I don't want an enemy to be some sort of an irresistible force or even a concept that is actual dimensions above the protagonist or the other side characters. I, on the other hand, really enjoy the eldritch or alien types of characters, types of settings, something unpredictable, something completely incomprehensible. But I think that in my stories, I would like to always keep a choice for the characters, the ability to struggle, to even possibly twist the direction the story is going forward to by their choice. That is definitely one of the things that I would really love to be able to achieve, that I aspire to, that the characters are actively resisting the type of story that I want to push them forwards to as an author. I want them to create their own story, both the protagonist and the antagonist and the side characters. I don't want them on a leash. I want them to lead the story themselves. And it absolutely is something that I will mention some more when I'm back to protagonists talk, which I will be in the near future. But for now, antagonists, I also don't want them to be just tools, even though I did mention many times that I want my antagonists to be evil, but I don't want them to be just stumbling blocks, just something that the protagonist goes through as some sort of a trial or challenge. They still absolutely have to be characters, just I want them to be evil. Obviously, not without exceptions. I do find some anti heroes, some tragic villains forced into their circumstances by forces outside of their control quite interesting, but I absolutely do feel that my story needs some more actual female villains in control that are in the direct opposition of the protagonist, and in the end either get what they deserve or the world around them acknowledges that their deeds were evil, but they escape the punishment that they would deserve by their skill, not just by a coincidence, luck, or some sort of a contrivance that would twist their actions into something seemingly good. This is going to be a struggle, something that I might never be able to even come close to, but at least I am aware of the pitfalls that I believe that I have noticed, and I'll do my best to avoid them or at least not dive headfirst into them. Now, for rapid arrows, I wanted to do some more in terms of introduction, take care of the main characters, and maybe touch upon the art, since comic books, as I've mentioned, were never really my forte, and now when I'm older, things seem a bit different than they did 20 years ago. So I wanted to reflect on that, compare maybe the art to Asterix that I went through just a few videos ago, and get ready for the big book of Rapid Arrows comics that I still have ever since my childhood. And even though I did have to search for it for some time, I managed to recover it, and we'll get to it starting with the next video. So, as I've mentioned, it's a story about five boys and their adventures and misadventures during the years of the World War, and beyond that, they mostly happen in Prague or around it, and there were probably two main motivations for creating this story, both educational but also keeping it somewhat comical. But there definitely are some rather heavy themes depicted, and especially in terms of the educational portion, there are sometimes some very heavy consequences for the characters that are ignoring the advices offered by the club Rapid Arrows. A wide variety of themes, including healthy lifestyle and some sometimes more, sometimes less true lessons bordering on folk wisdom, the efforts of the five boys to stand on the side of truth, honor, and always protect the weak, share and spread knowledge, help others in need, and not hesitate to take action when they are able to. And on the other hand, are the more fun, smile, joy bringing adventures, mostly centered around the comic relief, which is Speedy, the last member of Rapid Arrows, about daily lives of young teenagers of that time and their interactions with the world around them and their club activities, the way they navigate around adults, be it their parents, their family members, or just random strangers, more light-hearted and yet still keeping within the basics that the author set for the story and for its characters, led by Mirek Dushin that I've mentioned before, a blonde young man that's again the leader, always honest, setting somewhat unrealistic example for others that got mocked by people reading the story, and yet to me, he never felt preachy or invasive in any way, just this sort of a paragon of justice that was worth the admiration of his peers and those around him by the virtue of his actions, not just his words, which is rather rare and something worthy of praise, I would say, in terms of characterization of a young man that's actually like that truly believes in what he does. I do believe that Mr. Fogler did a good job portraying such a character. He always tries to create this sort of a friendly environment for everyone around him and remain the leader that leads by example, not just from behind everyone. Then we have Yindra Hoyer, also blonde, same as Mirek, and he's this tidy, quiet, sensitive, yet always ready to help boy that moved to Prague quite recently, so he's still unaware of some of the stories and happenings in the city. He gets educated on those by the rest of the club. Then there is Jarka Metelka, the second in command, dark haired boy who is always thoughtful, even going as far as to display some detective abilities in some of the stories, and the name Rapid Arrows was also his idea. And then there is Redcap, an ambitious and sometimes rather hot-headed youngest member of the club with dark hair, usually seen wearing his proverbial red cap, who can draw quite beautifully and despite his character flaws is a crucial member of the club, always ready to stand beside the others in whatever adventure they are currently engaged in. And then there is the mentioned comic relief Speedy, who is this kind of a maverick character, always ready to jump headfirst into whatever's happening next, sometimes clumsy and yet very kind, helpful to others, and he is the resident ginger of the club and also the person that takes care of the club dog, Bubble or Bublina. I have yet to decide if I'm going to keep using their Czech names or if I'm going to try and Englify them or if I'll just use the nicknames in English and keep the names, we'll see. A stray dog that followed Speedy back to the club room and thus the club decided to take care of it, adopt it, and take it on some adventures. It's a dotted dog of some sort of breed that I do fail to recognize, so I'll get to the dog as well as the club later on. I will touch upon the art in the next video and then it will be story time finally. And that's it for now.